Good afternoon, and welcome back to Community Conversations with the UI Cancer Center. I'm Chris Gay. If you're joining us for the first time, Community Conversations is a weekly show hosted by the UI Cancer Center, where we highlight our UI Health Department partners or our community partners about our different cancer programs, cancer information, and our different cancer interventions. Our guest today is Anna Gordon, medical social worker with the UI Health Department of Outpatient Hematology Oncology. Thank you for joining us, Anna.
Thanks for having me on.
Today, Anna is going to talk to us about the Survivorship Empowerment Network, also known as SUN. I don't know what happened. So, Anna, can you tell us a little bit about your role at UI Health?
Absolutely. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, and my role on the medical team is very versatile. Primarily, I'm there to provide emotional support for patients and families, caregivers, friends, anyone impacted by the patient's cancer diagnosis. I also help to connect them with community resources, whether they're related to their cancer treatment or just general psychosocial needs. I am a part of our bone marrow transplant team. I do our pre-transplant assessments to make sure that the patients and family are able to cope with the transplant process. I help to coordinate different types of home care, such as home health or hospice or palliative care. I certainly serve as kind of an impromptu navigator for our patients, for the healthcare system, for a lot of the insurance issues that they might run into. And I also develop psychosocial programming for the patients when they're in treatment, when they're in their survivorship phase, and for the patients' families.
Great. So they'll see you through a lot of different parts, the aspects of the cancer care spectrum.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yep.
So, again, thank you very much for joining us. And I guess our conversation today is about the Survivorship Empowerment Network, which Anna and a few of our team members, Scott Krug-Meritz, one of our patient advocates, Stephanie Logan, and Mona Strahan, another one of our team members, help facilitate. Can you tell us a little bit about the Survivor Empowerment Network?
Absolutely. So the group itself is a networking and educational opportunity for cancer survivors. They come together, they share their stories, they share resources with one another that they have found helpful. We meet once a month here, over at the Miles Square Center, which is right next door, and we try to focus on a different topic every single month that relates to survivorship care. So common examples would be nutrition, exercise, stress management, dealing with the emotional impacts of cancer, fear of recurrence, things like that, returning to work as a cancer survivor, certainly addressing any medical concerns they have regarding latent treatment effects. So we talk about a variety of things.
Great. And there's also an aspect of, you do like activities and stuff as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we try to expose our cancer survivors to a lot of different healthy lifestyle activities. So in the past, we have had a physical therapist come in and teach us some gentle exercises. We've had a yoga teacher come in. We've done field trips to various community agencies. We have had a chef come in and teach us how to cook healthy meals. So yeah, we try to make it as interactive as possible.
Awesome, man. So it definitely sounds like if anything, just a fun
It's
activity.
fun. I love going every single month, so
awesome.
It's great.
Awesome. And for anyone who's curious, it is survivors of sort of any of the cancer sites.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Do you have sort of like, right now a breakdown of how many people you have, or how big is the group right now?
Generally, for each meeting, we see between 6 to 10 patients per meeting, which is a nice size.
Great. And how, they're interested, if any survivors were listening, if anyone was interested in joining SUN or maybe sitting in for a meeting, what would be the best way? Could they just drop in, or should they call first?
They're welcome to drop in. Okay. There's no need to RSVP. Certainly, it would be nice if we knew you were coming so we could plan to have enough snacks available. And enough chairs, but absolutely, you can always drop in. We meet the last Wednesday of every month at the Miles Square Health Center, 1220 South Wood Street. It's from 5:30 to 7 in the evening. You don't have to be there at the very beginning. You can drop in after you're done with your workday. But yeah, if you wanted to RSVP, definitely check out the UI Health Cancer Center's website, and there's contact information about how to RSVP there.
I'll throw that on the screen. And again, yeah, this is the Cancer Center phone number and website for anyone who's curious about SUN. It's 312-996-8503 at cancer.uiillinois.edu. We'll make sure to post this on our website as well. And so, thinking about SUN, what was the idea behind creating this group? I think, I don't know if many people know about survivorship as a sort of field, a term. So what was the general idea behind creating the group, other than, it's just a fun gathering, right?
Well, it really was twofold. First and foremost, we had several patients who became survivors and patient advocates, and they really, really, voiced loudly that this is something that they felt was missing in their aftercare, and so they really wanted to form this type of group because there really isn't anything like it out there, at least that I've found in the Chicagoland area. So they really wanted a space where they could come together and not necessarily always talk about their cancer journey and all the specifics regarding that, but just be in a common space with other survivors where they have that in common, and talk about life after cancer, because there's so much more that happens with your cancer experience after the active phase of treatment. So it's very patient and community driven, first of all. Second of all, it's also now becoming a mandated service that anyone who is certified as a cancer center is supposed to provide as part of the patient care continuum. The research on this topic is finally starting to catch up with what many patients and families and providers have known for a long time, that cancer survivors face a lot of unique challenges in terms of their physical health, their emotional health, just generally living their lives and thriving after cancer. And so it's something that we really need to start paying more attention to and having concrete services available for patients.
And you said the care continuum of cancer, and that's really just the sort of beginning to end from your diagnosis through the rest of your life, that idea. And I mean, it's definitely cool. We have definitely a few community partners who deal with survivorship. And do you, does the group work with other groups around Chicago? Which partners do you usually work with?
So we try to expose our survivors to as many local partners as possible, both to benefit from their survivorship programming, but also a lot of our survivors really voice the desire to volunteer, to become patient advocates themselves, to get involved with, getting the word out about things like genetic testing or screening for different kinds of cancers so that they can prevent others from going through, the cancer journey. We partner with a lot of different organizations like Recovery on Water, Emmerman's Angels, Gilda's Club, the Cancer Support Center, which is down on the south side of Chicago, Wellness House, which is in the western suburbs. So there are a lot of really great local resources.
Fantastic. I know a few of those partners that the Cancer Center works with, sort of other capacities as well. And I mean, all very great resources for survivors. And sort of thinking about that, I mean, those are the community resources, but also, have you found anything in SUN, maybe like a story or, a resource that you found to be really impactful for survivors, or, anything you can share, like an example from the group?
I mean, our survivors just, I think, really value having that space where they can come together and feel comfortable talking about their cancer experiences and how it relates to life after cancer. I think one of the things that is most beneficial about the Survivor Empowerment Network is trying new things. We took a field trip last spring to the Recovery on Water headquarters, and we were all taught a rowing class.
Awesome.
And a lot of patients, including myself, had never really tried that before. It's a wonderful form of exercise, especially after you've had a mastectomy or other types of breast cancer treatments. So that was a really fun experience. I'll always remember one of our members, I won't share his name, we'll call him John. He'd never tried yoga before in his whole life. I mean, think of like a typical NFL linebacker. We brought in a yoga teacher. He was very hesitant, but he just loved learning the practice of yoga, and he still attends classes.
Oh, fantastic.
So, it's just a really great opportunity for patients and survivors to be exposed to different healthy living practices.
Fantastic. And you've mentioned a couple times the group, was it on water? It's a group completely focused on rowing as like, is that their whole mission? Is it also another support group, similar to Sun?
So Recovery on Water is a local organization,
Okay.
and it was founded by a few breast cancer survivors,
Okay.
and they were looking for ways to be active after treatment, and they just happened to love rowing. I think some of them had rowed in college, and so the organization was founded as a rowing team, and they tried to recruit breast cancer survivors to either be on their actual rowing team or just to come and row with them every week as a way to stay fit and healthy, because research has shown that staying at a healthy weight, eating healthy foods, just generally taking care of yourself after your cancer treatment can prevent a reoccurrence. So that's part of their mission. But they've also evolved as an organization. They have community nights where anyone who, even if you haven't had cancer, can come and take rowing classes. They've also hosted some girls' night outs with things like self-defense classes and other topics important to the community.
Great.
Yeah.
You said it's the Sun is every third Wednesday of the month?
It's the last Wednesday
Last
of every
Wednesday.
month. Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Do you have anything planned for this month yet?
We're thinking this month we're going to have one of our genetic counselors come and present. This is a topic that is, again, just like survivorship, showing a lot more interest and necessity in the research. We're trying to get the word out because a lot of people don't necessarily know that they have a family history of cancer, so encouraging people to talk with their loved ones about that, because that is a risk factor for a first or recurrent cancer. So we're hoping to have them come by just to provide some basic education, maybe some conversation starters for the Thanksgiving table, about any family history of cancer.
Right. Yeah, and we did actually have an episode about genetic counseling, a couple.
Great.
And again, I mean, we've listed it on our website. I'll throw that up one more time. So yeah, all of our episodes are on the website, and we did have one that was very interesting, and it's kind of to tie it to survivorship, I guess. I mean, in the episodes we talked about how, a lot of people don't think about family history as an aspect of healthcare, where it's all usually very personal, and like, if I don't feel anything now, then I'm okay. But even thinking about survivors, have you guys talked about in the group at all, the conversations you should have with your family after your sort of cancer journey? And is there, anything you can share from those types of conversations, specifically pertaining to, I guess, to genetic counseling, too?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the goals is for patients to help the community, including their own families, become more aware of risk factors for cancer, active steps that you can take to prevent cancer from ever happening. And so definitely part of that is having conversations with your family members, with your neighbors, because, cancer, especially in like the African American and Latino communities, it can be a very taboo subject. And that's why a lot of patients that we're seeing, they don't know that they have a family history of cancer until they get it themselves. And then they bring it up with their family, and they discover that, oh yeah, my grandmother, my uncle, they had, X, Y, and Z form of cancer, and they had no idea. And that would have really helped them to manage their own health before to prevent it. So those are the kind of conversations that we're trying to encourage our members to have, and hopefully there's a trickle-down effect into the community.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, and one of the things that we've learned just in navigation and, with groups like Sun, is that one level of education is definitely effective, making sure that, one group of people knows not only about cancer, but about the risks and all that, but then it's really that second level, once they understand and are educated about different types of cancer that, can then go into the community, then more people are asking questions. And, that's why I think it's definitely amazing that we have a group like, Sun, to help with that education, but also give resources to our many patients and survivors.
Yeah.
So really excellent. Sort of on that, because, Sun ties a little bit into, next month we have breast cancer Awareness Month. We have an event coming up, the Breast Cancer Survivor Celebration, that I know a few of our Sun members were at last year. And this year, this will be our second year of, doing this larger event where we'll have resources similar to Sun, where, different resources for survivors, for their families, for patients. We'll have food, different I think we had last year, which was a lot of fun, African drum circle.
Some dance classes.
Yeah,
A
dance
lot of really
classes.
fun activities.
Right.
Yeah.
The DJ I heard was excellent last year. And so, in a similar event of giving resources back to our survivors, to our patients, the Breast Cancer Survivor Celebration event, October 7th, right across the street from the hospital. And it'll be our second year doing it again, but also, we'll be trying to highlight this year, I think, a few different activities that we're putting together right now. So, it's a nice little tie-in to get a little plug for our event. And it's completely free as well. The important thing is that it's going to be outside on the lawn. We are having people RSVP, and we'll make sure to include on the link to this show that will also the RSVP link if anyone's interested, and also the information for, Sun, if anyone's interested. But you can also just drop in. We had a lot of people just sort of walk up and,
Totally.
had amazing testimonies from people who were just like, I saw you across the street and I had no idea what it is, but, I'm a cancer survivor. And, so it was definitely, a lot of fun, and we, excited to do it again this year. And I guess, how long now has Sun been going on? Is it a little over a year?
It's almost 2 years at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We started out very small, but
Right,
we've
right.
grown in members and in topics we've covered. So we're continuing to grow.
Fantastic. And again, if anyone's interested, we have the, Cancer Center phone number, 312-996-8503 on the screen. Also the Cancer Center website, where we'll post this episode of our show, along with any contact information for Sun and our survivorship celebration, and of course our Facebook information, that kind of stuff. I was thinking, something, I have a couple members of my family who are cancer survivors, not in my immediate family, but I brought up to them the idea of survivorship and why, they were very, and it's everyone's personal journey, but I have one family member whose impression was, it's done. I don't need to do anything else. It's the past of my life. And then the other one's like, I wish there was more. And they live in very far parts of the country. But can you talk to us a little bit about what you think is important about keeping in mind the idea of survivorship, that about the journey and making sure you get the resources that can exist after through the whole the care continuum.
Yeah, survivorship, I like to think of it as kind of the last stage of your cancer journey, that it will be indefinite, it will be ongoing. As a lot of cancer survivors out there can probably relate to, your treatment and the impact of cancer doesn't just stop, the last day of your chemo or the last day of your radiation. Thinking in terms of your physical health, there can be a lot of latent treatment effects that it's really important to pay attention to. For example, a lot of the chemotherapy regimens that people are on can have long-lasting cardiac effects, pulmonary effects, things like neuropathy, the tingling in the hands and the feet can last for a while. There can be cognitive impacts. People call it chemo brain, where you can have difficulty with short-term or long-term memory. And a lot of these things can be treated and addressed, but you have to make sure that you're seeking care for them. So that's part of it, just making sure that, based on whatever type of medical treatment that you got, that you're following up at the appropriate specialist. So definitely with your primary care provider, but also maybe with a neurologist or a cardiologist, depending on what risk factors that you have based on your treatment. And then there are the emotional impacts of going through cancer. You'd probably be surprised to learn that a fair number of people become depressed or develop other mental health problems after their treatment ends, rather than during the course of the treatment. And a lot of that is due to the fact that, there is a lot of support out there for patients when they're going through the treatment. There's a lot of support groups, a lot of, events, a lot of care that you get just, by being around your doctors and your nurses and your social workers, three times a week for 2 or 3 years. And then, of course, when you complete treatment, it's wonderful. You have to celebrate. But then you go home and you're not around all that support that has been holding you up. And so You can feel isolated, you can feel depressed, you can feel anxious. And so, connecting with a group like the Survivor Empowerment Network, if you have one around you, or joining a survivorship support group, or seeing an individual therapist, these are all things that we have to pay attention to. And then again, with the genetic counseling piece, if you didn't get that during your treatment, it's definitely a good idea to follow up with a geneticist just to see if it's a good idea to have genetic counseling either for you or for your family members to pass along that information.
Fantastic. And again, to reiterate, but I think it is important that sort of that second level of education and sharing of not only your journey, I guess, but it can really impact a community. And we've seen, some of the amazing impacts that our patient advocates, the survivors that we're connected with, have on our community populations, and are as advocates not only for the Cancer Center, but for the work that a lot of people, like the amazing work that you're doing, Anna, and it's definitely really cool to see survivors share at that second level and come to Sun and to the event we're having in October, and that interaction that maybe at first you might take for granted is very powerful, and it's cool to see through my few years at the Cancer Center. But it's definitely very important, I think. And so if you do know anyone who is a survivor, or if you are a survivor, I definitely recommend that you connect with Sun, or with other survivor groups, or there are other many resources in Chicago that we're partners with. Emirates Angels, ones that they do events at the Cancer Center frequently, Gilda's Club, and a few of the ones you had listed earlier. Just great resources are out there for cancer patients and cancer survivors, and I think it's awesome that we have so much. It just gets me excited to see that we have so much out there, and that the Cancer Center's right there at the front. I like. I do wish there were more groups like it, but I like that
I do as well.
We have the Cancer Center, again, at Mile Square, a major partner for it as well, at 1220 South Wood Street if you are interested, but, of bringing, these resources together. So before we close out the show, I'll show the contact information one more time. And again, if you have any questions about, cancer education, navigation to any of our programs or interventions, or, just general questions for yourself or a family member, a friend, you can reach us at this contact information at the Cancer Center website. We have a lot of information there, at the phone number for any of the for any of our shows, and the different resources we have. We'll make sure they're all, again, posted on YouTube, on our Facebook, and on the website, specifically about Sun, but also any of the other resources you've seen on our show. You can reach us at 312-996-8503 or at cancer.uiillinois.edu. Thank you so much again, Anna, for joining us today. It's a lot of fun. I hope we see definitely some more people at Sun from this video and from this show. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week on Community Conversations.